Hello Freedom Seekers, Jeremy Chambers, Independence Acres Homestead. Dealing with our first frost of the season, and September isn't even over yet. Stay tuned, we're going to share some observations. So in case you haven't already noticed, 2020 has been a doozy here in Michigan. Well, pretty much around the country. From storms and just all kinds of weird weather to bugs and disease and, well, it just really kind of feels like it's the end of the world some days. But it's not, so that's a great thing. But as you guys can probably remember, exactly 33 days ago, we dealt with something that we've never dealt with in 10 years on the property, and that was a hailstorm. That was just utterly damaging to our garden, and well, we never really fully recovered. About the only thing that's doing well right now is the peppers. And we were just finally starting to see some recovery in our squash, like the tromboncino. We actually harvested a couple for the farmer's market today, and the pumpkin patch was recovering. Our zucchini and yellow squash really never fully recovered, but they were just starting, everything was starting to come back and look so pretty. And then last night, we had our first frost of the season. Guys, September 18th, we had our first frost. This is the earliest frost on record in about 40 years. So, man, that's just crazy, frost. So, well, now we're just kind of in recovery mode right now. We've just decided that the gardening season's pretty much over for us as far as hoping to get too much more produce. So we decided it was time to just come on out and start harvesting all of our vegetables. So Shelly and the boys are working on getting the ripe tomatoes off the vine, trying to recover what we can there. I went ahead and pulled some peppers off of the plants, and everything else we're just going to kind of see what happens with the zucchini, the tromboncino zucchetta and the Cherokee tan pumpkin patch. Everywhere we look in the garden, it's just death and destruction, really. There's a few things that fared okay, such as the wild sweetie tomatoes, where they're tall and and have a large thermal mass. They actually did pretty well up here. As you can see, they're fully recovered from after the hailstorm. After the hailstorm, they were knocked down to about 3 feet tall. They're fully back up 6.5, 7 feet almost. But the area where they're on the ground down here is where there really was the most frost damage for those. The tomatillo patch, it might survive, but then again, really all it's been the last months ever since the hailstorm was just kind of a place for the bees to come and get a little extra pollen and nectar. They've produced a lot of flowers on those plants, but I don't think we're going to see much more fruit out of them. But let me just share with you an observation that really kind of was a little profound for me, and that's the pepper plants. As we all know, pepper plants are technically a tropical plant for the most part. And so that's why I really expected a lot of damage on these plants from the frost. And it wasn't just a light frost, it was a pretty stinking heavy frost. I had to scrape my window to go to the farmer's market this morning. And this is what we were looking at as far as damage goes on the pepper plants. You know, the top 6 to 8 inches is pretty much just wilted away because of the cold. One of the things that really surprised me the most about this frost was that not all of the pepper varieties reacted the same way to these extreme temperatures. So that's a jalapeno plant that I just showed you, and it looks pretty bad indeed. We're gonna have to probably just pick off all the fruit that's on there and see what happens. The other plants that did pretty bad that I'm not expecting any recovery from are these Habaneros. Basically, this is just a variety of habanero that was bred in order to remove the heat but maintain the flavor. Also, these 2 entire rows here of peppers are probably gone because they're bell peppers and small sweet peppers. They're pretty much shot. But what really surprised me the most was I had 2 pepper varieties that seemed to have minimal, if next to no damage at all from the frost. And those two pepper varieties are, number one, this is a Poblano. The peppers did real well, and I don't know if you can see or not, but these are the tips. There is like no frost damage at all on the tips of these plants. This just must speak to the genetic origin of this plant, where it can be able to withstand. We were at 30 degrees last night, along with really heavy dew, and that just created that heavy frost for us. And these Poblanos, I mean, they came through flying colors. I see maybe one or two leaves, and the flowers obviously didn't make it. There's one or two leaves here that show a little bit of frost damage, but for the most part, I think these plants are going to make it through with flying colors. We'll be able to let the peppers stay on here that are already on it and continue to grow. The other variety that did really well through the frost were the Hungarian black hot pepper. Let's see if I can get you down here. Here we go. Once again, we got a little bit of frost damage on the tips, but I think after a day or two, this is going to recover without too many problems. Compare that to your typical banana pepper, and look at the difference in color. So, you know, we've got nice bright green down here in the bottom, and then it just comes to this dead, dark green up here. Another variety that did decent, we might see some recovery of, is the Sugar Rush Peach. So, you know, we can see most of the flowers and the small fruit here are done for, but the plant itself is in pretty good shape. I went ahead and picked the two of the largest plants clean, and we pretty much filled a paper bag with that. The other plants, though, we're just going to let them go and see if we can get those to go ahead and ripen on the vine, because I really want those sweet hot peppers. But the two varieties that fared the worst by far in the hot pepper category are the fish peppers here. Just a beautiful pepper variety, but they don't look so pretty when more than half the plant is dead. Really hoping we're going to be able to see some recovery in those, so that the fruit that's on it will be able to finish growing and ripening. Because honestly, we still have almost a month before we normally see our first frost. So this was just really out of the ordinary for us. And like I said, jalapenos, no good. Those things are not going to survive. So just as a little hint for those of you that are in colder climates, if you are concerned about a early frost, longer growing, shorter growing season, you need a pepper that's going to last through maybe one or two semi-moderate frosts. Those two varieties did really well. And the third one that did okay, 3 out of 4 plants, looks like they're going to survive, was the Italian red Marconi pepper. Obviously, it hasn't ripened yet, but I'm hoping these plants will survive long enough for these to go ahead and ripen out. Because, man, we had 1 or 2 of these ripen up, and I ate one, and it was an amazing pepper. Really like the red Marconi variety. Loving the Sugar Rush Peach once they're ripe. Everything else, we'll just see what happens. Give you a quick look at the pumpkin patch here before we sign off for the day. And yeah, that's what we're left with. This morning, yesterday, all these were once again, 2 feet wide. But, it's about time for the pumpkins to be done. We need what's on the vine here to finish ripening up. Some of these fruits that were exposed to the frost, some of these young fruits here, those are not going to survive. They just kind of got soft. And but most of the larger fruit that is actually in the vine, and some of the lower leaves in the vine, looks like they're going to survive. So hopefully we'll be able to have them survive long enough to get these to ripen, and we'll get some good fruit out of this. So the plan for the rest of the day is going to be to get all the tomatoes off the vines. We're going to go inside, run them through the Victoria food mill, and hopefully be able to get some tomato sauce made out of these. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to season it with our own basil. By the way, honey, the basil's toast. Basil succumbed pretty quickly to the frost. Most of our herbs did not survive the frost, except for the chives. We still have chives, yay! So we'll make some tomato sauce with the tomatoes we do get processed. But other than that, we'll just have to see how the Tromboncino and the pumpkin fare. Well, I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us. For those of you who have already subscribed to our channel, thank you so much. Yoda best. And for those of you who haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any future updates. It's about time to get the rest of the garden set up for the winter. So we'll show you how we prep our beds for winter, and still have that video coming up on the quail feeders and waters. All right. Appreciate you guys so much, and as always, God bless.